I started with a tandem axle flatbed trailer towing our 1942 Jeep. In prepping the frame, I used Must for Rust to treat any rusted area, followed by the Rust-Oleum Rust Reformer spray, leaving each to dry overnight before continuing. Finally, I painted the wheel wells with Rust-Oleum, satin black for additional protection. The tires were only a year or so old, so I removed all four and pressure washed the rims to clean everything up before continuing. I wasn't too worried about weight since I had two 3,500-pound axles and a 1,400-pound trailer. The Jeep weighs about 2,400 pounds, so I had room to spare for the shell to be built. So on with the build. I used 3/4-inch ground contact pressure-treated plywood for flooring. That gave me a little more headroom than the former 2x8 boards. The flooring had been glued, screwed, and sealed with silicone around all the edges. I still planned to have the Jeep run up on 2x6s to distribute the wheel weight over the length of the trailer. I widened the trailer by about a foot without changing any steel so as not to affect the structural integrity of the trailer. I did this by adding a top 2x8 all along the edge rail. The space underneath the rail would become storage from the inside. The roof was framed with 2x2-inch lumber on 12-inch centers. I pre-stained the ceiling panels with pre-mixed polystain. Once the basic outer supports and roof frame was in place, I nailed up the ceiling panels and went to Lowe's for the installation and siding. I used 1.5-inch solid foam insulation to completely fill the void between the ceiling panel and the roofing paneling to make it a solid sandwich. The same sandwich is used for the walls. That produces an R7 insulation value, and the roof is strong enough to climb up there and have an afternoon cocktail. The paneling used for the exterior is a Louisiana Pacific product called Utility Panel Board. When I spoke to Louisiana Pacific, they said the paneling used the same exterior glue as their siding and had the same waterproof pre-primed paper laminate as their siding, but the product is slightly thinner and weighs less. It was a perfect fit for my application. Once the insulation was cut and wedged into place between the 2x2 rafters, my wife and I taped the seams to make it all airtight before gluing and screwing down the roofing panels. Once glued and screwed, it was caulked and 3 coats of deck primer sealer was applied. We used the same 1.5-inch solid insulation and paneled the inside with the same material as the ceiling, but only used clear poly on the walls. Again, all the seams were taped prior to putting in the interior paneling. I put in the shelf and began wiring for electricity as my wife, Jill, polyurethaned the entire inside of the trailer. I wanted the beds to be as light as possible because they would need to fold up and down and even easily removed when not needed. I trimmed down 2x2s to 1 inch thickness and built an 1-inch-thick frame surrounding 1-inch-thick solid foam insulation. The top of the platform was covered with carpet and the bottom was the interior paneling we used everywhere else. I'm guessing each bed platform weighs about 10 pounds and is substantial enough to sleep on. The insulation in the panel helps us keep comfortable at night even if the camper's cold. When in place, it looks pretty good, I think. I cut 1-inch pieces to insert along inside under the beds and in front and covered them with carpet. They press nicely into the sides to create storage as well as insulate the camper. The side windows along with the rear window made a huge improvement to the overall look of the camper. Next, I repurposed an old RV electrical panel and installed both 120 and 12-volt systems. I used a typical battery box to hold the 12-volt battery and a waterproof cargo box for the shore power cord and battery tender. The Tide pod container houses the cord and allows the cord to pull out to connect to shore power without getting tangled up with the other wiring. The battery tender is attached to the top of the Tide container and a duplex outlet is attached to the side of the container. The 12-volt line from the battery comes up from the bottom and is fused with a master shutoff when the camper is not in use. I built a water heater out of a 5-gallon water tote by installing a 120-volt water heater element in series with a thermostat attached to the side of the tote. Yes, it does work, but you have to be careful and never let the water level go below the level of the element. With this restriction, we heat the water and then switch off the power. I have a 12-volt water pump mounted on top of the tote, so we have plenty of pressure when we're connected to shore power or not. If not, I have a generator that we can use to heat the water when needed. It takes about 20 minutes to heat up the tote of water from a cold start. I bought 2 scissor jacks from Harbor Freight using a coupon and mounted them upside down under the back to stabilize the camper when it's parked.
You unlatch both sides of the ramp in the back, and then there's a winch over in the side that you can let it down. I'll speed it up so you can see it better. Alright, so you get the ramp down. You're going to open up the 2 doors. You've got the one larger door on the right, which is kind of like the garage door, and then the man door on the left. Then I'm going to fold up the 2 beds. There's a bed on either side, so that folds up and the legs kind of fold down against the bed. That's a little porta potty that comes out. I'll bring that out. You want to get everything out that might get in the way of whatever your ATV or vehicle is that you're pulling into it. I've got a panel heater that hangs on the inside front wall. It's a silent ceramic panel heater. It really does a very good job. So I'll drive it up in and then shut the man door. So lift the door all the way up. I put the little piece of koozie over the doorknob, and I close down either side of the latches on the back. That protects it. Let down the back storage shelf, and then all your other equipment, if you don't put it inside with your ATV, you can load it on that back shelf. That's a ceramic heater. The first thing was the water system. That's a ceramic heater. Put the porta potty on. And you get all that on there and you strap it down, cover it up, whatever's necessary. Wrap it up, you're good to go.
We refer to the back gate as the patio when we're camping. Well, here's our campsite. Our first trip. We only had a tarp for an awning, but I'll have created a rollout awning for our next adventure. Hope you enjoyed the build process. Here are a few more shots from the trip.